And then who would like to go first?
I can go first.
All right. If you have visual aids, they're not required for this speech, but if you have them, there's just a share screen function at the bottom or your PowerPoint.
Yeah, I don't have any right now.
That's okay, just in case anyone else does.
Okay.
They are required for speech 4, so make sure that you're working on those, okay?
Okay.
All right, Aaron, let me pull up my timer.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Whenever you see a penny on the ground and its heads up, you're going to believe it's pretty lucky. Superstitions like this run wild in the sports world. And baseball is one of the most, and this happens most in baseball. Pitchers will try anything from not cutting their hair to using the same piece of gum to avoid slumps or to stay in their zones. And being a Red Sox fan, I know a lot about some of the biggest superstitions and curses in baseball. So today I'll be talking to you about one of the biggest curses in baseball history, the curse of the Bambino. I'm going to explain what the curse is, incidents that fed the belief of the curse, and how the curse was finally broken. So first, let's start about the origin of the curse. The beginning of the curse started when the Red Sox traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees in 1919. Kauffman's newspaper article from 2015 talks about how this trade marked the beginning of the 86-year title drought for the Red Sox and the beginning of the New York Yankees dynasty. So now with the curse established, let's talk about the first incident with the curse. The 1975 World Series against the Cincinnati Reds is one of the first incidents. Pierre's newspaper article in 2002 talks about the bad luck of the Red Sox. After surviving elimination in Game 6 of the World Series with a walk-off home run, the Red Sox surrendered a 3-2 lead in Game 7 to lose by 1 to the Red Sox. After this loss, the Red Sox were contending again for the championship after a few years. So in the 1978 playoff game against the Yankees, they lost against the Yankees by 1 run. The Red Sox gave up a 14-game lead in the season to force this playoff game against the Yankees, according to Kauffman's article. The Red Sox were then forced into this playoff game, and they were winning by 2 runs when Bucky Dent hit a 3-run home run to give the Yankees the lead. This was considered by many to be a fluke because he only had 4 home runs in the whole season. So the Yankees went on to win the World Series this year, that year. So after that tough loss, the Red Sox suffered their worst loss in the World Series era, or the curse era in the World Series. The 1986 World Series against the Mets had plenty of drama in that series. Simmons' article in 2013 relives the dreadful Game 6 against the Mets. The Mets were in a 2-out rally to avoid elimination in the 10th inning when Bill Buckner let a ball go between his legs and let the winning run score. In turn, with morale deflated, they would go on to lose Game 7, and the Mets stole another World Series from the Boston Red Sox. So after that devastating defeat, the Red Sox finally were able to beat the curse and the Yankees in the same year. 2004 saw one of the most improbable comebacks in baseball history with the Red Sox and Yankees. Herzog's article talks about how the year before, the Yankees beat the Red Sox in Game 7 on a walk-off home run by Aaron Boone. So that just fed many to believe that the curse was never going to end. But the next year, they met again in the American Championship. And this year started off terrible. They were down 3-0 in the series to the Yankees, and everyone had abandoned all hope. But the Red Sox went on to win 4 games in a row to beat the Yankees. No team had ever done this ever in the history of baseball, according to the Buffalo News article. So after they won the American League, they would go on to sweep the Cardinals. They would go on to sweep the Cardinals in the 2004 World Series, breaking the curse and ending their 86-year title drought. So now let's conclude the curse. The curse started with the trade of Babe Ruth, and then led to multiple World Series incidents and bad plays, and was finally broken by when they faced the Yankees and came back from a 3-0 lead, or 3-0 deficit, and went on to win the World Series. So some people like to talk about superstitions being silly and not real, but I for one, would not like to mention or jinx my luck anywhere near Boston ever again.
Good job. All right. Tanner or Jared, who's next?
I can go.
I'll go for it.
Jared?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
Did you guys see me or hear me?
Yep, you're good.
All right. Visualize arriving home from constant combat, watching your brothers and sisters in arms wounded or worse, giving the ultimate sacrifice. As some of your military family are wounded, so are you, whether it be physical or emotional. You have fulfilled the commitment you made to serve and exit the military voluntarily or through no choice of your own. Entering back into the civilian population with a background of devotion, duty, and loss, job experience is in no short supply. However, none of this benefits you in the least, and at the lowest point of your life, you find yourself unemployed and homeless. As a retired Air Force SF and a fellow combat wounded veteran, I'm going to inform you the demographics associated with the homeless veterans, the factors which contribute to this, and the resources available to veterans who experience homelessness. It's important to understand the demographics associated with homeless veterans, as it is much more diverse than many think. Veterans Incorporated stated, as of 2014, the number of homeless veterans was at 22.5 million, and between 529 and 824,000 are homeless at some point throughout the year. As it is hard to believe, homeless veterans consist of men and women from many different conflicts. The numbers are startling. According to the study published as Administration and Policy in Mental Health and Mental Health Services Research Journal, and homeless veterans from the Operations Iraqi, Enduring, and Operations New Dawn, the most common were white males, the ages of 30, unmarried, and who experienced post-traumatic stress disorder, were found to be higher in the mental health diagnosis. The same study conducted by Jack Sy, Robert Pierzak, and Robert Rosenheck, female combat exposure veterans reported homelessness were more common among African American females around the ages of 30 years old, also unmarried, but were more with mood disorders, followed by the same post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis. The demographics in this study accounted for socioeconomic identifiers among homeless veterans, but the study related service-connected disability payments as a factor contributing to homelessness as well. Contributing factors to the homelessness among veterans are plenty, but a couple of them are major contributors. One contributing factor to homelessness is unemployment. An article published in the China Bureau and China Business Newsweekly addressed the ongoing issue with unemployment and the returning veterans having trouble finding employment, at over 1 million being unemployed. Many friends that I have had throughout my time in the military have found it hard to keep employment due to their emotional trauma associated with combat. Another contributing factor to homeless veterans is substance abuse issues common among returning veterans due to medical issues and the common solve of narcotics. An article published in the American Journal of Addiction revealed illicit drug use to be the primary and the risk associated with homelessness in combat veterans. As a combat veteran myself, and with many surgeries due to injuries, there have been many times prescription drug use could have been a problem. It was due to the support system and those around me that kept me from winding down that dangerous road. Contributing factors to homeless veterans are plenty, but two of the most noted factors are unemployment and substance abuse. But there are resources available for those in need. There are plenty of resources available to those veterans, as well as specific resources provided to those who find themselves homeless. It is especially important that you remember the resources so that if at any time you find a friend in need, you will know where to find help. The United States Department of Veteran Affairs provides many resources to veterans and has developed special programs for homeless veterans. Since no one person fits a specific profile, anyone can access their website and look into various programs for assistance at www.va.gov. Veterans Crisis Line is an excellent source because it provides services to those in desperate need, as well as those who need help with basic needs. This site is an excellent source in getting veterans off the streets and helping them gain their independence back. A person can access that site through www.veteranscrisisline.net. There are resources for homeless veterans, including the VA call center number, which is 1-877-424-3838. The demographics, contributing factors, and resources are all important material for you to know how to help homeless veterans. So to conclude this speech, it is extremely important for people to be aware of the situation our nation's veterans are experiencing. The demographics do not discriminate. The primary contributing factors are employment and substance abuse, and knowing the resources could help homeless veterans to gain their independence back. These veterans do not belong on the streets, deprived of their dignity and pride, when they have helped to secure the freedoms we hold dear. Above all else, try to remember the resources as they could save and help a beloved community member.
Good job. Okay. Good job tackling big topics. I like when that happens. Okay. Who's left? Travis and Tanner? All right. Which one of you guys would like to go?
I can go.
Okay.
We good?
Are good.
Okay. So how do you prepare for a job interview? Like most people, I mean, we're all a little bit anxious when we go into the first interaction with that new potential employer, especially if we're really excited about the job. So over the past years, I've applied for a lot of jobs, and I kind of like to think that I developed like a method for success. So today we're going to talk about how to present best you before, during, and after the interview to get the job of your dreams. We're going to go over a couple of tips to prepare you for the interview, how to present yourself in the interview, and also how to keep open communication following the interview. So now that you know what we're going to talk about today, let's get right into preparing for the interview. So obviously the resume is one of the most important elements of a successful interview. This is your first impression on a new employer. So if you don't have a good resume, you're not going to make a good impression, and you probably won't even get an interview. So Glenda Shiner writes in the summer 2007 issue of the Armed Forces Comptroller, developing a winning resume is a key component of interview preparation. So a winning resume includes things just like a format that's really easy to follow and readable so that the interviewer doesn't have trouble. Also make the content specific. You don't want a general resume. Everybody wants to look at it and they just want to feel that you care about them. They don't want to know that you care about everybody else as well. Also proofread your resume. So read it and then read it again, because if there's any grammatical or spelling errors, you're probably not even going to make it past the review process. So the second thing is do your homework on the organization. This right here, and homework, I mean on the company, the job, and the team that you're going to be working with. So when you do research for the information, what it does is it prepares you for questions asked during the interview. Another quote is from Forbes.com, and this was on July 31st, 2015. It states, "The more you know about the role, the better equipped you'll be able to say why you're the right hire." So you want to give the interviewer a reason to hire you. So if you take the time to research the company, it shows the interviewer that you care enough to put in an effort to research that information. It also gives them the kind of a little hint of the type of work ethic you'll bring with you to the job. So next is dress for the job you want, not the job you have. We've all heard this because it's a pretty common expression. And the reason why it's so common is because it's actually true. So I guess how you dress depends on what type of job you apply for. For the most of us, we'll use a standard dress code, which is dress nice, no excessive jewelry, and no visible tattoos. And so I always have to wear a long sleeve shirt because my left arm is covered in tattoos. And also, when you apply for a big boy or big girl job, you want them to perceive you as an adult. And how you dress can easily determine, well, I guess how they perceive you can easily be determined by the way you dress. Let's see here. So now that we've gone over how to sufficiently prepare for an interview, we'll move on to how you should act during the interview to make a good impression. So the first thing is general body movement and voice. The first interaction that you have with your future employer is a handshake. So there's actually a lot that can be determined from a handshake. You want to make sure that the interview perceives you as confident and respectful at the same time. So you want a firm handshake, but you don't want to crush their hand because that's not respectful at all. Also, the more you smile, the more inviting you'll seem to other people. I know I don't want to talk to somebody who's just sitting there just like this. And I mean, it doesn't make the interview fun. It makes me kind of want to shut down, and it makes the interviewer feel that way as well. So you want to make them feel at ease. And although it's important to smile, don't overdo it because you can come off kind of creepy as well. Don't do that. Another thing is make eye contact because that shows respect for the individual. It also helps you with your listening. So if somebody's talking to you, you want to make direct eye contact so that you don't get lost in the message. It's something that we learned in this class this year already. And you also want to speak with confidence. The more you speak with confidence, the more people are willing to believe you and willing to listen to you. So if you do this, then the interviewer will view you as a person that knows what they want. And that's always good. Another thing is personality mirroring. That's something that I learned doing door-to-door sales. So people like to talk to themselves. If you sit there, if you're like this really happy, energetic person, you talk to somebody who's kind of like just mellow and just likes to go with the flow, you're going to have to dim it down a little bit. Otherwise, they won't want to talk to you. It's simple biological nature. They just want to talk to themselves, or they kind of want to talk to themselves. So Robin Dreeke and Joe Navarro write in a December 2009 issue of the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin that people want to be communicated with as they like to communicate. So this also talks about the certain kind of dialects that people have in different parts of the country. So it's also nonverbal. So if I lean back and I'm an interviewer, you kind of want to lean back and be nonchalant as well. And at the end of your interview, it's time to ask questions, and you can really impress them by coming up with specific questions. You want to ask I questions. So what would I be doing on a day-to-day basis? What this does is it paints a picture in an interviewer's head of you working there, which increases your chances of becoming hired by them. One of the most common questions is, when will you make the selection? Okay, and that kind of leads us into our next point. So now that we've had tips about interacting successfully with the interviewer, we're going to talk about the open flow of communication following up with the company. So one thing that I do is I call a few days later. They tell me the deadline of when they're going to make the selection. And if I don't hear by that time, I call them. I call them just to figure out what's going on, because a lot of times it takes a lot longer. And for the most part, that's actually really worked out for me. And this shows that you're still interested in the position. But I mean, don't call more than once because you're going to seem too needy. And this also keeps your name fresh in the mind of the interviewer. So this tactic creates the idea that when it comes time to make a decision, they already have a name in their head, and that's going to be your name. So now that we've gone over the steps for preparing for, during and after the interview to land the best job for you, we're going to go over the tips to be successful in your job interview. So we've talked about 3 steps that'll help you be more successful, which is preparing for the actual interview, and we talked about how to make a good impression, and then we also talked about how to keep an open flow of communication afterwards. So the job of your dreams is actually right around the corner, and now that you have these tools for success, there's nothing standing in your way.
Good job. All right. One more left.
Oh. Well, hi guys, I'm Tanner, by the way. And also just introducing myself.
Okay.
Imagine putting millions of dollars on the line every single year for a hunch that Mother Nature might hold off, it might not. And it's a way to make some cash, but you also don't want to go under either. The thing I'm talking about is called the Harvest Run, and it goes from the southern tips of Texas all the way up into Canada. Every year, thousands of people go on it, and they're basically glorified gypsies is what we call them. But the purpose, I'm going to give you like a little overview and just show you like how it goes. I'm going to give you a rundown of like the history, the cruise, how it goes, the stops and how everything works there. And then the hardest part about being on a harvest cruise is being away from your family. And speaking from experience, I've been on one at the age of 10. My dad put me on one with him. And from 10 to 14, I got to run on one. The art of custom combining is something that's been around for years. Wikipedia says it's been around since the early 20s. If you go back into those small farm towns and ask about things, they definitely will be like, yeah, it's 1910. Like those older people know exactly what they're talking about. Like that history is true. The harvest crews range from anywhere from 2 to 50 people. I went and did some history on that just to make give you like a reference. And the USCHI is a custom harvester's website, and they did a story on Arthur L. Howard, where in 1944 he had 1 machine, and then by 1950 he had 12, and 1960 he had 19. So it just depends on like how big your crew is. I mean, they can vary from 2 to 50. It just really depends. It's a great opportunity if you're super young to go on a harvest run, and you learn different machines, learn to grow up. I mean, you can get your CDL from it. The main part about it is just the combines. And combines separate the wheat from the chaff, and custom combiners are used because the farmer can't get the crop off in time. You have like a 2 to 3 week window when the weather's going to hold out and you need to get off maybe 100,000 acres, and you have to like get it going. So bigger crews come in and do stuff like that. The different way crews set up is usually if you're a smaller crew, you're going to have 1 to 2 combines, maybe a couple trucks, and that's about it. If you're a bigger crew, you're going to have combines, grain carts, trucks, semis, you name it, it's all going to be there. Now that you kind of know what a harvest crew setup looks like, let's take you on a trip. Don't worry, it's only 1,400 miles long and 6 to 7 months long. I'm just going to give you a rundown on the wheat harvest run because that's the longest one, and it'll play into the fall here once I get talking. But the wheat harvest run in late May, everybody moves from the northern states down to Texas because that's where the wheat ripens first. And then once you're down there, you set up and you're just about going to start cutting maybe June, somewhere around there. 2 weeks after you make your first stop in Texas, you're going to make another stop in Texas to make some more money. But say it rains or something, now you're stuck for another 3 weeks down there. 2 weeks after that, you get all your wheat cut off, you move up to Kansas, make a few stops in Kansas, wheat's all decent. Now you move either to Colorado or one of the Dakotas or even Montana. There is some wheat in Nebraska, but the problem with Nebraska is it's all row crop. and it's all corns and beans and stuff like that. So that's more of a fall crop. So now that you moved up into South Dakota, per se, the wheat's not ready yet. So now you're going to get your crew up, move all the way to North Dakota, cut barley, then go back to South Dakota when everything's ready to go back there. The hardest part about the harvest crew is not just the moving stop to stop and trying to dodge the weather, but Mother Nature herself. You can cut all the wheat you want, but if Mother Nature is not cooperating, you're not going to do a dang thing. And from the Texas tornadoes, when you have your May rains all the way to August, you're dodging rain, thunderstorms, equipment losses and stuff like that. But that's not even the hardest part of harvest. The hardest part of harvest is when you pack up and you're 6 to 7 months away from your family. And when you're like my dad, for instance, he was I was getting old enough where they noticed, like I was noticing he was gone all the time. And so I mean he shut down, but like what some people do to overcome that is they'll take their kids with them. And that's all those kids do from the day they were born is run a combine or run something in that vicinity. And that's all they do for their entire life. And so, I mean, for example, my dad took my mom on the harvest run and she ran a combine, took me, I ran a grain cart, and my sister, we called her the gopher. And she just, anything we needed, she just went and got. Like, that's just how it was. And that kind of just voids that boundary just kind of being gone, because when you're away from your family, and in 2014, I got to experience like what it was like. I just went by myself with some family friends on a run, and you can only FaceTime so much. That's with anything distance. But that's like the hard part about it is not knowing what's going to happen, where you're going to be. And it's just, you definitely grow up in a different lifestyle, and it makes you grow up way faster when you're like working with your parents and working with your family. I'll give you like a little reference. There's a book by Catherine Benjamin called Harvest Day with Papa. And what it is she goes through her experience and tells about how her dad was teaching her how to do things at the age of 14, at the age of 15, that she like wasn't going to do in her lifetime, but like, you know, she has this experience and knows what it's like. And I can relate to that, because if you overload semis with grain, you get very, very big penalties from DOT and stuff like that. And at the age of 14, my dad goes, all right, here's the deal. You load it up, you overload it, it comes out of your paycheck. It's like, oh, that's great. Thanks. I appreciate it. But the best part about it is just knowing how everything works and knowing where your food comes from and knowing exactly how different people are brought up and stuff like that. But in conclusion today, we talked about the harvest run itself, crews, what they're all about, how Mother Nature plays the biggest role in everything, and how being away from your family can honestly be a breaking factor in being on a harvest crew and not. If you're looking for an awesome, sweet summer job and you want to see some country, type in custom combining, find a website, find one of the crews, fill out an application, and see where it takes you, because it is an experience that you will never, ever forget. So I appreciate your guys' time.
Hey, good job. All right, I'm going to end the recording really quick.